One of the big things about college algebra is finding the zeros. And what we're doing is we're trying to figure out where does this polynomial cross the x-axis, which is also called zeros. And one of the things we can do to find that is to use something called synthetic division. Now, let's say I want to figure out if, let's say, 2 is a 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use synthetic division. I'm going to put 2 in the box. Okay, now, if I'm putting 2 in the box, what I've done is I've just looked at dividing by x minus 2. And we'll talk about that in class and various things. But now, after the box, I put down the coefficients of my polynomial. Now, you'll notice that I have x to the 4th, that's what I start with, so the coefficient to that would be a 1. Now, after that, I should have x cubed, but you'll notice it jumps to x squared, and I really actually need an x cubed there. And since there isn't one, I need to put a 0 in its spot. And this is something people tend to make mistakes on a lot, is that they skip and they don't even notice that x cubed is missing, and so they don't write anything, they just go ahead with a -9 right away. But you want to make sure to put anything that's missing. So that was x cubed. Now we have x squared, that's -9. And then we have x, that would be 4, and then we have our constant, which is 12. Now with synthetic division, we're going to leave a space underneath and draw a line. Now our first step with synthetic division is to take that first number and drop it down. Now when I drop it down, I get a 1. I haven't multiplied by anything yet, I just drop it down exactly as is. Then I take that 2, and I take 2 times the 1, which gives me 2, and I put that answer underneath the 0. Now I'm going to add these two together. So 0 plus 2 is 2. And then I go ahead and I take the 2 times the 2 and I put my answer here. So I'm going to put a 4 there. Then I add these two together and I get -5. Put that underneath. Take my 2 times my -5. That gives me -10. Add these two together and I get -6. And then I take 2 times -6, that gives me -12. And add those two together, I get 0. Now 0 is awesome because 0 means that 2 is a 0. So x equals 2 is one of my zeros. Now remember, to figure out how many zeros you have to look at your biggest exponent, and I'm going to have 4 zeros. So 2 worked out. But I still have 3 more zeros to go. Now, a lot of people go back to this set of coefficients, the original coefficients, and they start with another number. However, what's going to happen is, how do you know when you're done then? See, if we take our answer here and use that for my coefficients, meaning that I'm going to get rid of that 0, okay, I don't want that 0 there, just kind of ignore the 0. But if I use the rest of these as my new coefficient and put a box out in front of it, then what's going to happen is I've now whittled it down. Instead of something having, what do we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. See, this was x to the 4th, x cubed. This one is down 1. This is x cubed, x squared, x, and constant. And so if I can get it down to be x squared, be a quadratic, then I can box it out, and I don't have to do this hunt and peck thing for my zeros anymore. Okay, so let's try another number. I'm going to cheat because I know the answer. I'm just going to go with -1. Now, see, the thing is, if you don't get a 0 here, then it's not a 0, and you want to put a different number there and work with these again. The only time that you go and you use the bottom ones for your new 0 is if the one that you had actually worked and you got a 0 there. So now I have my new ones. I can use my -1. I do my synthetic division, drop down the 1. -1 times 1 is -1. 2 times -1 is -2. -1 times -2 is a +2. -5 plus 2 is -3. I made a mistake, didn't I? Okay, so let's go back. I multiplied when I should have been adding. So on this one right here, I have 2 minus 1 gives me 1. Then I multiply by 1. -1 times 1 is -1. Add those together, I get -6. Multiply -1 times -6, I get a +6. Add those together and I get my 0. So once again, I have a number that works. And so -1, x equals -1 is also an answer. Remember, I need 4 of them. Okay, so now I cross that off, and you'll notice what's happening here is now I have x squared, x, and constant. I have something that I can box out. So I'm going to rewrite that as x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, so my coefficients go in front of the x squared, x and negative 6. Okay, the other way you can look at that is working backwards. You can always say constant x, x squared, and keep on going. Just like here would be the constant x, x squared, x cubed. This is the constant x, x squared, x cubed, x to the 4th. Okay, so if you ever want to know, do I have a quadratic yet, just start there and work your way backwards. If you have a quadratic, then let's go ahead and just box that out if you can. If you can't box it out, then that's probably a good indication that you need to use the quadratic formula, which will be much faster than trying to do all these finding zeros with synthetic division. Okay, so now I have negative 6. I'm going to go with 3 and 2. All right, I want to get a positive x. So if I have a 3x and a 2x, to get a positive x, I need the 2x to be negative. Okay, so now I have x plus 3 equals 0. I have x minus 2 equals 0. So I got those from the sides here. Here I have x plus 3 equals 0. Here I have x minus 2 equals 0. And then when I solve those, I get another one here says x equals 3. And then here I get x equals 2. And so you'll notice that x equals 2 has a multiplicity of 2, whereas the other ones have a multiplicity of 1. But I have to label them all. I have to write them all down because I want all of my zeros to show, even though 2 happens twice.